These are some of the suckers that we've trimmed off, and Krista and I are trying to get them to root. We're going to try to root them so we can plant them next fall. That one is almost ready. You want to wait till they're about 2 inches long. All we did was pop them, stick them in water, and let them soak for a couple weeks. And this one I want to actually do some pruning on right here. Come on, be gentle. Because you can see the roots are pretty long, but most of the stem down here is not rooting, and it's actually starting to rot. So what I want to do is just prune that off, throw it in the compost, and then I'm going to put this one back in. I'll probably transplant that one next week. That one's from a cherry tomato, but this is one that we pulled off one of the early girls right here that I'm going to transplant. So you can see that the roots are clearly 2 inches long. This one once again has a piece that has died out. I'll just remove that and then just take it and kind of put it down into the soil here, making sure tucking down in as most of the roots as I can, and then I'll water this in. We have this going again where we were trying to get some plants started for a fall crop. I found out we were giving them too much light, so they grew way too fast, but there we go. Now this might grow and be a lot bigger than we want it to be come spring. But what I'm hoping is we're going to pull it away from the light so it gets less light to kind of stunt the growth. And then in February or late January, ramp it up so it starts to produce a full plant, and then we'll have stuff ready to transplant that are hopefully about ready to blossom the beginning of June. We'll see. We're going to try to do it with 7, and then if we get those in and they're ready to blossom the beginning of June, middle of July, we have some tomatoes all the way on through, and then we just start all that all over again next fall. So we're constantly what's called cloning these plants. Let's see. This is one of the suckers that was rerooted and growing. It's just been transplanted into that small of a pot, like I showed in a previous video. But it bloomed twice and it's outgrown this one. So now I'm going to transplant it into a bigger pot, and I'm hoping that it can continue to grow through the winter and we can plant it in the spring. I might have to add some lights in the area where we're growing it to help it get more light, because that's one of the reasons why it's growing funky. But I'll probably bury it in this next pot up to here, give it something to grow on so it can grow up better, and then strip all of the blossoms off. So it might be kind of hard to hear me because they have the freeze dryer going, but this is the tomato that I started from just a sucker, and you see there's one tomato on there, and then there's 2 tomatoes over there, and lots of blossoms. So we're indoors right now, and I'm amazed at how many blossoms and what's going on here. So this was the main line that I planted off from, and it wraps around and comes over to here to the end. But what's interesting is you have an offshoot right here that comes back around and comes up to here. So I'm like, keep on asking myself, what am I going to do with this tomato? And I finally decided that I'm just going to take the suckers like this, and then the primary, which will end up being this piece right here, and then this sucker, but mainly it's primary, so probably starting right there, because it's also forming its own sucker, so probably that sucker. And I'm going to reroot those and see if I can't get them to plant this spring and hopefully have some earlier tomatoes. I don't know how well it will go, but I think this is pretty dang awesome, and it's been a fun learning experience. So it's now January, and as you can see, this tomato plant has ran completely dog crazy on me. I was hoping to build a frame for it so I could have a trellis to weave it in and out of. And if I do this experiment next year, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm first going to make sure I trim off all the suckers, because that's what, as I said earlier, that's what I started it from, a sucker like this one right here. I'm going to trim off all the suckers so they don't grow incredibly crazy in a mess. I'm also going to do it so I can slowly lower it down, but we've been eating cherry tomatoes off it. As you can see, there's some that are ready, but I'm probably going to take this sucker right here and that one right there and clip them off and start them the same way that I started this one from the cherry tomato plant in the garden. And then hopefully I can get them and keep them trimmed such that, see, there's a sucker right there. I don't want that one growing crazy and out of control, so I'll just clip it off. But hopefully I can keep them maintained so May, when we go to plant them out, we're having blossoms like this. I'm surprised that they're actually blossoming and pollinating indoors with no insects to help with it. It's just them. So it will be interesting to see if we can propagate 2 more plants from this one and have fresh tomatoes pretty quickly.